Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the WIMBIZ e-Roundtable for the month of May. Please let me know if you can hear me clearly. You can just drop a comment in the chat box. But I would like to welcome you on behalf of WIMBIZ. Thank you very much for joining the e-Roundtable. Thank you all. Before we go on, I would like to introduce, my name is Doyum Okpong, by the way, and I would like to introduce you all to WIMBIZ. Women in Management, Business and Public Service, WIMBIZ, is a non-for-profit organization that has, over the last 19 years, implemented programs that inspire, empower, and advocate for greater representation of women in leadership positions in the public and private sector. WIMBIZ is also a volunteer-based organization funded largely by donations and contributions by members and partners, and is a supporter for the Code of Ethics and Conduct for NGOs. For more information about WIMBIZ, please visit www.wimbiz.org. We want to thank our sponsors for the May e-Roundtable, Cordos Capital Limited, Greenwich Merchant Bank, and First Bank Nigeria. Thank you very much for sponsoring the 2021 May edition of the e-Roundtable. At the end of the webinar, a poll will be put up for a quick evaluation. And after that, a link will be shared to all the participants via email. Please do respond to the evaluation link. We would like to hear from you. We kindly invite all participants who are not WIMBIZ associates to please join us, become an associate today. And for the already WIMBIZ associates who are on this webinar, for those who have not renewed their membership, please do so. You can make inquiries on membership@wimbiz.org. And we're looking forward to all of you learning from here. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to learning also. And we hope that you take lessons from here. Please help us make this trend. You can tag us on your posts on social media. On LinkedIn, please tag us on Women in Management, Business and Public Service. On Twitter, @WIMBIZ, and on Instagram, WIMBIZNG. So without wasting time, we'll go straight into the main reason why we're here, the discussion. But before we go on, I would like to introduce us to the moderator in person of Mr. Femi Oshinobu. Mr. Femi is a partner in the PwC Nigeria and currently leads their technology and digital business across PwC West Africa. I would hand over to you now, Femi.
Thanks, Doyum. Thank you everyone for joining this session. Moyon, I'm really excited to be, I'm honored to be joining this session and to be moderating this session. I'm probably the only man out of over 1,000 women, well, probably I think during this period of the pandemic, very likely that we have some gentlemen joining in the background as well. So everyone is welcome, and that's what the pandemic has really helped to do, and where you can join sessions that really interest you, whether you're a man or a woman. So good afternoon, everyone, once again, and I think just before we go into the details, I'll just probably just introduce the topic and introduce our panelists shortly before we go into a quick poll. Before the detailed discussion. Today we're just looking at, as part of the session, the WIMBIZ monthly sessions, we're looking at the theme of what we call Women and Money and trying to debunk the myths. And there's a lot of myths around women and money. And I've got some esteemed panelists and very experienced people in this area who are joining me, who will be helping us, educating us on this topic and helping to debunk the myths. I'm just the moderator, so they are the experts. So my job is easier today. So with me, today is Tolu Dima Okoje. I will do a brief introduction of Tolu, but once we start the session, Tolu will tell you more about herself. Tolu is a money behavior strategist, a certified financial education instructor, a business owner, real estate professional, and an investor. And she's also an author as well. But more importantly, she's the founder of the Money Map Academy. So, and she actually consults for some of the biggest companies in Nigeria and across Africa. Tolu, you're welcome to this session. The second panelist today will be Wura Abiola. Wura Abiola, another accomplished professional. She's the managing director of Management Transformation Limited, a management consulting firm. And looking at Wura's background, she's one of those people that have intimidated me recently, having a PhD in organizational behavior. I actually moderated a session, an Africa Digital webinar 2 weeks ago, and almost everyone on that panel had a PhD. So I've been telling people like Wura that I'm not sure I will study for a PhD, but I'm sure some university will honor me very soon so that I can have a doctor in front of my name. So Wura's experience, cuts across even Mackenzie and Co in New York and then in London. And she's a director on the boards of Beta Glass, Nigeria PLC, Oak Gold, Cayman Islands, just to mention a few. So I will stop at that. Once we start the detailed discussion, the two of them will be opportune to do a deep dive in terms of what they do and actually do justice to the topic for today. But before we go into the detailed discussion, I would like the WIMBIZ HQ to put up the poll question. So all attendees, sorry, you will see some poll questions in front of you. If you can just respond to that in 10 seconds, then we will move on after that. Please, this should be appearing in front of your screen. Do you have any investments in the money markets? Yes or no? That's the first question. And the second question is, in your view, which of these is the major limiting factor to women investing? Poor financial education, insufficient investable funds, risk aversion. I'll just give 5 seconds and for people to respond to that on their screens, and I'm sure we'll be sharing the results of the poll later. Thank you. Then I think we can move on now. Okay, thanks, WIMBIZ HQ. So we'll go to the panel discussion because that's actually why we are all here. And the topic, like I said earlier, women and money, the pong in the mix. What is a myth in reality is a widely held but false belief or idea. So it's not true, but people believe that. People believe that that is the truth. So let's debunk the myth today. I've got about 2 or 3 myths I will probably share before I go into the panel session. And it's a common myth, which a lot of people believe. The first one is actually people believe that women need more help managing their money than men do. I don't believe it's true. Women are often told that they need more help or different advice about how to manage their money. And there are a lot of books, websites, even from the likes of Citibank. There's something around Citibank Women and Co, Prudential's Women and Money. Everyone thinking that you've got to treat women differently, help them manage their money better, how to invest. But the truth is that there are a lot of studies that show little difference between men and women when it comes to financial knowledge and skills. So if we have the same knowledge or habits in terms of spending, so there is really no difference. But that myth persists. And why does it persist? Because women themselves actually believe it. So it's not true. And today we have to debunk it. If you've got the same financial knowledge and habits, why should we believe in the myth? The second one is around people saying that women are naturally risk averse. If you look at the profile of Tolu and Wura, they are not risk averse. They're taking better risk or higher risk than people like us who are comfortable in our area. So again, along similar lines, that's a myth that we intend to debunk today. generally, people are not investing nowadays because, it's tough out there. They don't have money to invest. So it's not about women, and people are earning less. And even if women are probably investing less, probably because, if you look at the UK and the US and a lot of countries in Europe, where they're trying to strike gender balance, where women are not as well as paid as the men, even they are doing the same thing. So from most of the research, especially if you really get close to what's happening in Europe and America now, it's more of the disparity in pay, and not necessarily that those women are not really investing what they are. They earn less, so it's not about being naturally risk-averse. And the third one, there's this something that says women don't invest because they spend more on shoes and dresses and lattice. Again, is that true? And because they spend so much, that means they can't really say they can't invest more. But that's another thing. Women spend more on clothes than men. They spend more on shoes than men. That's a fact. But men spend a heck of a lot on autos, on fast cars, on liquor, on electronics. If you look at Nigeria today, a lot of men, when they go out to those clubs, they are buying EXO for 100,000 naira. They buy drinks of 1 million in one sitting. And people don't have a problem with that. That doesn't come for criticism, but when women buy shoes and clothes, then people say, wow, they're spending so much. So again, that is a myth. Women are not investing, or they are investing not because they are spending on shoes. All those things are the myths that we're trying to debunk today. So I won't take, I'm not an expert in this area, but I've got some ideas. So I'm going to move on and engage the experts in this area. So I'm going to start with Tolu Dima-Okoje. I'm going to give Tolu some time to introduce herself and engage in this topic, focusing on why women are not invested. Tolu, over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in the world you are. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Tolu Dima-Okoje. I'm an associate member of WIMBIZ as well, and I like to call myself a WIMBIZ baby because I'm a WIMBIZ mentee as well. So I have a number of touch points with WIMBIZ. But more importantly, to today's topic, women and money. I want to come more from a personal point of view. A little bit about me and what I do. So ultimately, I'm a money behavior strategist. I basically help people in terms of their relationship with money. And I run a business. I run a couple of businesses, the financial services area and the real estate arm. So basically, when it comes to money, I'm your go-to person. That's how much I love money. So clearly, I'm in the right place, right? The other part of me that I would like to share with us is more some background about my mom. My mom is late now, and she was my first money mentor, as it were. And looking at the topic today, debunking the myths, I thought back to my history with my mom before she passed, and the money lessons she shared with us. And I'm loving that the moderator already talked about some of the myths, but I want to come from not just attacking the myths, but talking about some of the underlying things that may have created the myths and how we may be consciously or unconsciously contributing to those myths. So let me talk about the biggest one of it all, conditioning. And what do you mean by conditioning? So I'm the first child of 4 children. We all happen to be girls. So my father was blessed, lucky to have 4 girls, right? And there was a conditioning by other parties. My parents were very different because they raised us for the future. Like, it doesn't matter, man or woman, whether you're a man or woman, whatever you want to achieve, you can achieve it. So that was the conditioning I kind of had. But I realized that there was a certain conditioning with friends and colleagues with, oh, you're a girl. You don't need to know about money. Why should you know about this? All you need to know is how to take care of your home, a husband, and your children. And subconsciously, we have kind of told our girls that they don't need to be interested in or as knowledgeable in certain areas, that he's the man, he's the son, he's the one that needs to know about money. And this is not to say that I was completely cocooned from it, because even I just celebrated 10 years anniversary last weekend, and I talked about even getting married, how I didn't want to know what my husband earned. I didn't want to get involved in finances. I felt it was a man's job to handle the money. And it was actually my husband who educated me and said, if you are better at it, then why shouldn't we let you, the person who is more knowledgeable about this, to handle finances? So this is just to give you a real life example of how somehow as mothers, aunties, friends, brothers, fathers, we may be consciously or unconsciously conditioning our daughters not to pay attention to finances. Again, some of the myths we have is, that women are not really they're averse to risk, and that's just saying they don't like to take risk. And you almost find women every day saying that, oh, I don't like risk, oh, I don't like risk, oh. And I'm thinking, I have 2 daughters now, and even sometimes I have to caution my husband when he says, no, they are girls, don't let them play, don't let them jump like that, don't let them do this. And what again we're seeing is another type of conditioning that, oh, boys can be competitive, girls don't need to be. And you're also giving them the energy, like the push to say, try new things, be adventurous, guys. But girls, oh, you guys just chill, relax, be ladylike. So if you're not careful, we have been raising our girls to not be as competitive, to not be as adventurous. I mean, think about it. Your brother is probably overconfident, trying to jump what he can't jump, saying he can do what he cannot do. Well, you don't know, but you understand what I'm saying. The point is that we're seeing a lot of subconscious messages that may have, culminated over a number of years into a persona that a lot of us are now saying, oh, girls don't know about money. But look at me, my original background is not in finance, but I got interested in it. So I had some interest in it. Was lucky enough to have some mentors in the industry. And I started training with them. And look at me today, guiding similar women in the industry, men as well, because I have decided to take interest in it. Like one key thing I like to say, and let me know, Mr. Femi, how many minutes I have left, by the way, is, money, awesome. Money is actually a life skill. Just like cooking is a life skill, like driving is a life skill. And with most skills, it's something you can learn. All right. For many years, they were saying women can't drive. And then we have the first woman driving. Women can't fly planes. We have the women flying planes. So if women can drive, then why can't you learn the skill of money? If men are learning to cook, why can't women learn the skill of making money, multiplying money? It's a skill that we can actually learn. So I want you to get it into your head when, you're saying, I'm not good with money. Oh, I'm bad with money. Chances are, even the people that are in court, you think are good with money, they probably had to learn it the hard way, because that's what experience also helps you to do. Again, talking about spending, we all spend. I think that's the truth of it. I mean, think of your children. My children are barely 10, and they already know that money is for spending, and I have to be re-educating them about the other reasons for money. There's money for giving, there's money for saving, there's money for investing. But we all seem to have this natural, original sin of we know how to spend money. All right. But the truth is, I don't think women are necessarily spending more. We may be spending more frequently in small bits here, and it's valuable. But like the moderator rightly said, my husband knows how he tries to hide certain big ticket items. It's just the problem is that they are so big, you can almost not hide it. But we can even hide our own. That's how small it is. So really, are we spending as much, or maybe we're just more vocal about what we spend? I'm not sure women are actually spending that much more, because no one has vexed and gone to buy a Harley Davidson or a Mercedes-Benz G-Class 2021. I don't think you and I have gotten to that. In fact, if we did that, everybody would say, what were you thinking? But if the gentleman buys that, it's almost like, hey, chairman, I mean, I'm trying to make this as relatable, but think about it. These are just the underlining things around money. And I want to end with this. When it comes to money, we're particularly good with money, because I know when it comes to giving loans, the financial institutions are looking for women. Guess what? Women have a track record of paying back the money in time and on full than men. Even in taking loans, I know a few of our colleagues in the industry are saying they'll be telling men, bring your business plan. They'll say, all you need is 10 million. The man will say, no, I need 20, and it's all part of that over-optimistic, over-confident thing. Women will need 10 million. They'll say, just give me 5. And they're saying, look, you need 10 take 10. So you have a good track record. Like you can do your business plan. You can show that you need 10. You are saying you only want to take 5. In fact, I know people who take those loans and use half of it just because they want to ensure that they're able to pay back. So all of this conditioning from the environment, from our families, from the culture can actually put us in a position that can make us appear to be at a disadvantage when it comes to money. So in summary, all of these myths have a baseline. You and I may be contributors to it. And I hope with these few words of mine, you will be one of the people recreating new knowledge about women and money. Mr. Moderator, I think I am done with this quick session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tolu. Thanks for keeping to time as well. And that was very insightful. I'll still come back to you. I've got a few questions based on what you discussed. I can assure you of that. But before I move to Wura, our participant, there's a Q&A box. Please put all your questions, let them start coming in. And that's the way we are going to collate all the questions that we'll be asking the panelists later. We still have about 30, 40 minutes for questions from the participants. So thanks for that. So you mentioned something which actually almost in the last, which is around financial institutions looking for women to invest. I do a lot of work in that industry, most of my consulting in the last 2-3 years, and you probably spot on. A lot of the, whether microfinance banks or digital banks and the commercial banks are looking for women and they're struggling. So women should be bold enough to go out there. And the record says that actually women pay back the loans on time, they are not trustworthy, they don't run away, you know. So please, women, pick up on that. But I'm coming because there will be questions on that. How would they go about this? But let's leave that for a moment because Wura is itching to help debunk some of this myth. So Wura, over to you. Introduce yourself and help us, do justice to why women need to actually invest more. Thank you, Tolu, and welcome, Wura.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be on this webinar today and joining all my sisters and WIMBIZ on such a very important topic. Maybe I should start with introduction and then go into cover some of the points that have already been spoken about and add some more to it. I am not a personal financial advisor. What I have been over the last many years is a mentor and coach of women. And in that role, I get to work with women around their professional careers, their family plans, and the financial elements coming into it as well. In addition to that, I've been investing, I've been part of one financial scheme or the other since the young age of 13, and let's say that was just a few years ago. So I do have quite a lot of experience that I can share with the people on the call, on the webinar today. But I just want to say, and I think this whole message about learning about finance being a life skill is totally spot on. Women must be concerned about money, must be concerned about their finances, period. Whether we're a homemaker, whether we're an entrepreneur, whether we're a corporate professional. Indeed, I don't know a woman that's just one of these things. We tend to do a lot of it together. We have our profession, we have a side business, we look after the home and everybody around us. So because there's so much of a demand on us, we must be concerned about money, we must be concerned about finance, and we must equip ourselves to know what it takes to do what we need to do. And I want to share 2 sets of advice with everybody on the call today. The first one I got in 1992 from a lady called Sandra Dawson. At that time, she was my OB lecturer that turned out to be, in a few years later, my supervisor for my PhD, and has been my mentor ever since. And she said to me, define your goals. Initially, take baby steps. And as you learn and build confidence, she said, take bigger, bolder steps. So I'll put that aside. And then turn to the second advice I got from my father, and that was when I was around 12. And he sat me down and he said he wanted to talk to me about money, and I was wondering why. So he said, no reason, but apparently that's the age that he sits us all down one after the other to share his own philosophy. And he said something that was very interesting that I've held on to. He said to me, if you want money for the sake of just having money, you will never have enough. He said, however, if you're interested in money for what it helps you to do or achieve, then you have a very good chance, and he said, God willing, to always be in surplus. And I'm translating that from Yoruba, which is how he spoke to me on that day. So let me marry Sandra Dawson's advice and my father's, because I think they come together, and I came to realize that at some point down the line. Even with finance, even with money, we must have some goals. What are those goals? What are our life goals? And how does money feature or enable those goals? So the first question is really, what are our life goals? What are they? What is the role and place of money within that context? And then, what steps do we need to take to make sure that we are either assured, confident, comfortable that we will have those monies at the time when we need them? And I always end up talking to my ladies around these questions, whether I meet them on a coaching engagement where the company sets us up, me as the coach, and we go through formal engagements, or whether we gravitated towards each other because we met somewhere, we had an affinity with each other, and then we developed a coaching and mentoring relationship. But these questions always come up. Because if we don't ask ourselves those questions, we will be using other people's financial rubrics to determine our own financial health. What price you should pay on a shoe, what you spend on a shoe. Depends on what you're using the shoe for, depends on what your other requirements are in your life. So there isn't one answer. There isn't one way. It all has to be within the context of our requirements. We may be lucky to be in a household where we have two earners, where our own income is supplementary, but it doesn't still mean that we don't have other goals. And that's why I always start with those sets of questions. Once we start to understand those questions and what they mean, then we can start to ask ourselves, what do we need to know? They talk about self-education. The good news nowadays is that education around finance is no longer, a black box. If you go onto YouTube, you check any search engine, you'll find helpful tools. Because what we need to also know is that we start with the concept of saving. The journey from knowing our financial requirements and being able to meet them is something around saving. How much should we save? I ask myself that question every year because my reality changes every year. How much you should save depends on how much you earn, depends on what your outlays are. And the question around that simple exercise, how much am I making? What are the minimum obligations I must just meet? So you don't even need an Excel spreadsheet, a piece of paper, pen, and just on one side, my income coming in, On the other side, how much am I obliged, required, responsible for spending? And then you'll see what the difference is. Then the question is, do you save 20% of that? Do you save 70% of that? Again, it all depends on your goals and requirements. I'll come back to tools for actually doing something differently with our finances after we leave this call. But let me just take you through the three elements. So the first one is education. We just have to learn. And it's not all learning from externals. We have to learn about our own character, about our own needs, and document them and study them. It's after that that we start talking about what strategy. Do we save? Because the question you asked was about money market. I don't work in the money market. I don't do anything in the money market. It doesn't meet my requirements. But it's a very good place to start if people are not very confident about saving. I may have done that, 20 years ago, but today I don't do anything in the money market because I know my risk profile. I know the sectors I want to invest in. I know what it means to diversify my portfolio with different types of instruments. So we not just strategize. But the third and most important part of what it means to become savvy in investing and being responsible and confident with our finances is to find a little group of like-minded people that we can sit with and talk to about our thoughts and our options by investing, who we know will also come to us with ideas as to what they are doing. And that is where I will also, like the previous speaker, just talk about my mother for a minute, because my mother did things organic. She didn't sit me down to tell me about money, but I saw her. She had a little piece of a little book next to where she sat, where everything she spent got written down. And she had her three lady friends. It happened to be three of them, where when they would sit down, at some point, they would talk about projects, land, business. This is what they're doing. These are the challenges. This is a good idea. They bounced ideas off each other. They shared opportunities with each other. There was a trusted little cohort of people. So if my mother bought a piece of land, you can tell that the land on the left or the right would belong to somebody else who was in that cohort because they did things together. So we need those three things. We need to educate ourselves, we need to start to think through our strategy, and then we need to support group that works with us to help us think through our ideas on finance and investments and opportunities. So those three things, I think, if people would take away from today, I'm hoping that they would find helpful pointers on these three areas. So I will as well yield back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ura. I think I've got about 2 pages between the two of you. I hope people are taking notes. So exciting times. A couple of things which you mentioned there around goal setting. You've got to have like goals, very key. And how does money feature? And this is not for women alone. It's just for everyone. So I tell people, what do you want to do in 20 years after you retire? What are your goals? Do you want to travel around the world? Do you want to have, visit 80 cities after you retire? Then you've got to start planning. You don't want to go back to the village. Plan towards that. So if you don't have life goals, and I tell people, all things being equal, and things will get better. The climate will get better. We might live longer. So people think that I will die at 70, might not die till 100. You've got to plan towards that. So I like the thing around having life goals and working towards it. You've got to have now develop baby steps towards achieving those goals. And if it's savings, if it's investment, well, again, those three things that you mentioned around education, learning about your own character, your needs, it's very important. The strategy, your risk profile, and, engaging like-minded people. So, that's really heavy. I know 10 minutes is not enough to engage that. Well, we'll probably unbundle some of those things when we go into some questions. And I think before I go into the participants much more later, Tolu, let me come back to you. Thanks for that, for educating us in the last 10 minutes. So Tolu, over to you, and I'm going to pick you up on what you talked about when it comes to financial institutions looking for women to give loans to. Can you throw more light on that and probably engage people or help people to know how they can go about this? Thanks, Tolu.
How to go about getting loans?
Yeah, in the banks, because women don't believe that they can approach a bank and they will give them loans. And I've got a lot of clients, especially who are looking for women SME loans, in all over the country, and women are not stepping up. So can you help advise it?
Yes, okay, that's an awesome question. So my mom was a businesswoman, a teacher and a businesswoman. One of the things I saw her struggle with, she could not expand. She didn't understand her money for the longest time. So I actually saw her with that difficulty. And it was largely centered around a lack of knowledge and a lack of know-how. So incidentally, especially being ladies, she had no sons. It was a case of being financially rich. You need to take care of yourself. But my mom never taught me how to. And it took me till almost her passing to understand that she actually didn't know how to, but she knew that this was something to do. And that actually kind of is what's happening still with a lot of women. The how to is a big gap. So you would like to, you would want to, but we don't know how to. And there are two key things here. First off is a lot of us don't know our business numbers. I mean, that's actually how I kind of started this, because as a business person myself, I realized if I said, which quarter are you most profitable? When do you actually have the most sales, generate the most sales? Which product gives you the most margin and gives you the most profit? They wouldn't understand this. And the truth is, money, I said the world runs on money. The world is a business place, whether or not you like it. Though the battle between, the vaccine or America and China, it's really all about the numbers. And until we learn how to play the numbers game, it's harder for you to get ahead. So women are not really clear on how to play the numbers game. They don't know. So if they ask them, they go for a loan, even a soft loan. And so what's your turnover? Meaning how much are you selling per month, or per year? They can't give you a figure. They're like, I have to go and check. You don't, and you've been in business for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you can't say how much you've made each month, every month for the last 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. You can't say which is your best selling product. You can't say which is the product that isn't doing as well. You can't say which one is the one when you drive marketing towards it, you sell more. You're not able to talk confidently and clearly about your numbers, because guess what? The minute you start talking so articulately, when you're talking so clearly about your business, even anyone around you, as long as they're business savvy or money savvy, they're already thinking, so how can I plug into your success? Because it's clear you're communicating very strongly what your success is about, what your numbers are about. And that's what financial institutions are looking for. But you find a lot of women when it comes to bookkeeping, that's another cost. I don't know how to do it. Let me just be doing it this way. In fact, there's something we have at the Money Map Academy. We have something called the MBQ, the Money Behavior Quotient, that we developed over years of experiencing clients. And we realized that consistently there's a profile. In fact, most of my clients have this profile called the mismanager. There are 4 profiles. There's the spendthrift, the hoarder, the mismanager, and the investor. But the mismanager is the one that is like Nigeria. So they are distracted by what I call cash flow. Their problem is cash flow management. Because you are having money come in from your business, you are just selling, we're buying, we're selling. So money is coming in. So you are distracted by that at least you are having money come into your business. But the truth is, if you're not careful, you are spending your capital. Some might even wonder, what am I talking about? That is an issue. So you are distracted by your cash flow. Just for salary earners, it's like when you're saying, so how much do you have? Then I said, don't worry, to me 35, they'll soon pay us. So your salary is now your distraction. In fact, it is almost like a blessing and a curse in a sense, because because you're so confident that on 31st something is coming in, you're not paying enough attention to what you're doing with it, where it's coming from, what affects it to make it come low or high. So it's the same thing with your business when you're not sure what's coming in, what's going out, but because you know numbers. I still remember a client that we did analysis for her because she also needed to get something similar. And she was shocked when we told her the turnover in a year. She couldn't believe it. I said, as long as these are your bank statements, this is what you've done. As long as this is your inventory, this is what you've actually done. But the worst part was there was nothing at the end of the day. And I said, you can't be turning over millions. You can't be selling millions and not have, not have nothing to show for it at the end of the day. So what you are distracted with is your cash flow. So bottom line, we need to understand our business numbers. You need to understand what triggers it, what works for it, what works against it. I know this is a completely different area, and the best part is you don't even have to necessarily have a strength in this area, but it's important for you to have some knowledge about it so that when you're getting an accountant or your bookkeeper and they're having discussions with you, you can talk about it, in a way that you can understand what they're saying. And I emphasize this point because I've had some clients, and the mentor actually shared with us, Mrs. Bukawoshika, actually during one of our sessions, how someone had an accountant and said, you are the accountant, I don't want to have a meeting with you. So the accountant was trying to discuss with the business owner that this is what's happening with the business and this is what we need to start and stop. But because of the fear of the numbers, and this is where the knowledge, the skill in money is important. Because of the fear of the number, this person never sat down to discuss with the accountant because they couldn't understand the interpretation of those numbers to what they needed to do. And I've had clients like that where I had to be the bridge between the accountant and themselves to say, this is what he's trying to say. This is what we need to do. Because if you don't have that knowledge or someone to guide you along that line, you may be making decisions that are counterproductive to the success of your business. And at the end of the day, globally, it is already recognized that when we have more women being financially literate, getting educated, the right kind of education, being better with their businesses, taking loans, running businesses as, not just the secretary and administrators, but in senior management positions, we will find that we will progressively be better as a nation, as a community, as a family, and for the world. So I hope that kind of addresses that question.
Thank you so much, Tolu. I think that's, I've seen some comments, and I think people are learning a lot from this. That's very well covered, understanding your business numbers. And even when you look at Nigeria in the last 3 years, lots of the funding for SMEs available to development banks. I work with the financial institutions. Most of loans are not given out because, and when you look at the proportion of women in the MSME sector, it's a huge percentage are women, and the funds are there and they are not taking the funds. So I hope people are listening, and the funds are available for people in that space, and I hope the women can go out there and take it. So thanks to Lutz for enlightening us on that. Wura, back to you, Wura. Just one question about helping to educate, enlighten the women around, giving them multiple demands, bills at home, trying to spend money, and women actually take care of their extended family for both sides. In most families, especially in this part of the world, the in-law families, their own families, and the man is just out there saying, I'm trying to work, and it's the woman trying to see the little that is left and trying to distribute it, even though the family's members are still not happy. Anyway, but looking at that, how possible is it still to have for the women to still have money left to invest? How should women prioritize all this? Yeah, you have all the responsibilities in the world, families and bills, and you still need to invest. So how should the people on this call prioritize their, spend and investment? Thanks,
Thank you for that question. That's the $1 million question. Honestly, I will even add a little bit more to the dynamics of it. The first one is that the unexpected, the unthinkable happens all the time in Nigeria. You're sitting down, Jeje, as we say, and somebody has an accident. Yes, you have health insurance, but on that day, you must just put your hands in your pockets, find the money so that the person's life gets saved. a car that is supposed to drive for 10 years packs up. Generators are supposed to be a lifetime asset. We overuse it, breaks down, and you've got to buy another one. There are constant demands on anybody's wallet. The challenge for us is to find, I'm going to call it financial discipline. Some people will call it being miserly, some people will call it being hard-hearted, but that isn't the point. It is financial discipline. The ability to prioritize, to say, there will always be at any one time a myriad of demands. What is high priority? What can I afford this month? What do I program for next month and the next month? Because I must always save, because saving is that first leg towards investment. When it comes to personal investment. So when we're having that conversation, and the challenge is usually a mindset one, we're not wicked, we're not unkind, we're not unfeeling. What we are responsible women who must look after the future, because those goals will only become real if we enable those goals with the required financing. So it's not, I will not be able to help my cousin, my friend, my whatever, but I can help him next month.
Thanks,
So for me, that is so important. Peter, I will have you the floor. Tony wanted to say something.
No, go on, sorry.
Go ahead. Because for me, that is the first part, because if we let guilt run our decisions, we won't necessarily make the best ones. If we let all those emotions, all our natural instincts run those decisions, we will never be able to take the ones that would allow us to methodically work towards achieving those goals that I told you about. So personally, what I do is that amount that is for saving is not even available to me to spend. So what your banks can help you with standing orders, they just sweep the money. Just as some men sweep some of their salaries to their wives even before they get it. It's just what you do. Sweep that money, so it's not actually available. And then the question then becomes, what is available? What are we spending on household? What is that amount that I will spend on myself because I deserve it? It's not about guilt. It's that amount that I deserve because I've worked hard, looked after everybody, that if an emergency comes up, then we can have that conversation, does that go? But not the one for the school fees, for everything else that is a necessity. Not the one for the saving for the future. Because remember, women generally live longer than men. So what we're saying about, oh, it's a man's, he will be there to look after it, but it may not be. And you read the papers every day, even for those of us that are professionals, that take our salaries for pension. Pension is not doing so well sometimes. So we need to supplement.
So let me just ask one question. So I still have you on the floor, and you probably just take it with what you're saying now. There is that belief that women only think about their financial future when they are forced to do so, and which is maybe they lose a spouse, something happens, and that's when they start thinking about their own financial future. So they might actually be with a family, be with their spouse for 30, 40 years, and everything is rosy. And you see women at 65 because they've had a loss. And that is when they start thinking about this future. If this is correct, can you help me just throw more light in terms of what advice would you give to the women here today? Thank you.
I will do that, and maybe go back to what Mrs. Dima Okoji was saying earlier. When we are conditioned to think like that, then honestly, ladies, this is not about blaming anybody. What we're saying now is that that conditioning, we need to release ourselves from it. It's not anything that should be antagonistic. It's like I said, baby steps, and then we grow into it. Release yourself from thinking that it is untoward. It is even immoral, or some people will say unholy, to ask some simple questions about money and to even have some concerns about how it's spent. It isn't, because at the end of the day, there's nothing more holy, more becoming than being a responsible woman that helps your family at the time that it is required. And that sometimes requires foresight, that sometimes requires planning. So if it is the truth, and we're not ever praying that our spouses will leave before us. If God is kind, we will all be 90 and go together gently. You've seen those pictures of people holding their hands as they go together. If God willing, that's what's going to happen. But it is our responsibility to plan just in case. It is our responsibility to ensure that we're not found wanting if there is a requirement. So that is the conversation I always have with the ladies, to say, we're not saying leave this meeting and go and fight with your spouse, that I want to see the accounts and what you have been doing, but we're saying, how are you spending your own money, first and foremost? How is there a pot that is family money that we can spend and decide and agree together and start moving from there? I don't know if I answered that question.
Excellent. Thank you, Ura. I think you've shown, given a lot of insight into that question. Thank you so much. I will allow you to pause a bit and come back to you later. And I've got some interesting question for Tolu, which is around women. I see a lot of women, especially in Africa. A lot of them they've got active income, earning salaries in major organizations and small organizations. But women are earning passive income as well. Most of these women sell clothes, do Uber, they do almost every other thing beyond their activity. So they make a lot of money. But yet things don't seem to be adding up. So what do you think the issues are, Tolu? You're a woman. The active, passive income, and yet things are not adding up. What do you think is happening? What are the issues?
I missed it. So they have active income? Are we saying they don't have passive income? Or
They do. They have passive income as well. Okay. So you have active income, you have passive income, yet things are not adding up. Okay. What do you think the issues are here?
Great, thank you. Thank you for that question. I think Mrs. Wura Abiola has kind of addressed that question. It's one of the first things we do with clients, and I will go again into my story, and I apologize for simply share my personal stories, and it's more because our clients, to an extent, because I want you to see how real it is, like it is happening. So I was working in a multinational, myself and my husband, and like a decade ago, almost a decade ago, my husband had lost his job basically, and it was the wake-up call. Literally, or my second wake-up call. My mom was my first wake-up call, because when she retired and her money and she didn't know what was going on and all that, that was my first wake-up call. So something significant had happened to my mom. The second wake-up call was when my husband lost his job. The arm he was in a company got closed off, and it was just like, oh my God, pressure on me to be the one to carry on or what. And my husband was trying to do whatever I could in the couple of months before he got another job. But there was such uncertainty at that time that it was scary. And I can say that I was probably like that woman you just described, because I was working at a multinational, making money, just enjoying my life, flying all over. And I didn't have any pressure. I didn't have any future goal. I didn't have any life goal. I was just going by the script of get married, have kids, have a good job, everything is okay. And that's probably where a lot of us as women find ourselves, you know? And the interesting thing about my story is because at that time, my husband and I had a mortgage. So there was not just the pressure to leave, there was the pressure to pay off a debt, a huge debt. Otherwise, we could lose the house. And it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So it forced us to have a goal, a financial goal. And that's why I love what Wura said, because it's true. When you decide that this is what I want, then you say, what is the cost of that thing you want? You want a car, what is the cost of that car? You want to go to your master's, what is the cost of the master's? You want to build a home, what is the cost? You want your kids to go to XYZ school, what is the cost? So I began to start needing to decide what is it that I want for my life and what is the cost, so that my money, active, passive, whichever it is, could begin to function in a strategic way to achieve that result. And based on this thinking alone, and I'm so glad I have what I call my MQ, my mentor at the time, I was able to say, okay, darling, I think we can pay off this mortgage. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I've done the numbers, I've done XYZ. And if we do this for a couple of years, we can pay off this debt, you know? And we paid it off. That even the bankers were like, how did you guys do it? Because we don't understand. But what is the point I'm trying to say here? When you have active income, passive income, that the biggest goal is really that what is this money trying to help you achieve? And I think as women, as part of our conditioning, because for the men, they know that they have school fees, rent, summer holiday, clothes, shopping for clothes, food for money, burial you contribute, car you need, next car you need to change. So it's like they're driven by so many things they need to achieve. And for most of us women, we are giving, in quote, the recipient role, where it looks like our money doesn't have a lot it's working for. Whether it's a lot, I mean, we also have men who say, I don't want to touch your money, I want to be the sole provider. Not that that is necessarily wrong. I'm just saying it's all part of the condition that makes it look like we don't know what to do with our money. So it's important that we begin to say, you know what, if all I want to do is I want to put in funds for my children's education, or I want to be able to have, like for my mom, for example, I'm not happy that she died and I didn't have anything to inherit other than clothes and some jewelry and shoes and bags. I would have liked something else, because she used to say that, but I really would have liked to have that. It would have been great if she said, what I want to do with my money is to bequeath some plots of land, some investments to my daughters. And I didn't get that. So even if you have a spouse who is meeting all your needs and you're not under pressure, because a lot of women take that route, like, but my husband doesn't need my help, then it's not a bad thing for you to have something. And if you look at the recent case of Prince Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, talking about how, when they decided to be cut off from the royal family, that if not for the inheritance from his mom and the returns from the investment, they could have been, adversely affected and become mere mortals like us. What is the point I'm trying to say? As women, it's important that we begin to have some life goals for the reason why I'm making this money, because like Mrs. Wura Abiola said, we can't just make money for the sake of making money, because otherwise it's never enough, as you can see with our politicians. But however, when you have something that you're working towards and you achieve it, there's a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose, a sense of pride that, you wanted to do this, you did this, and you can even use that to continue to educate other women about how you were able to do X, Y, Z, and you did it. So I think that kind of addresses that question.
Thank you, Tolu. But Tolu, just give me a second. I've got a follow-up question. I'm sure most of our participants will be interested in this. What are the practical steps to start investing, and where can they invest some of this money they're making?
That's an excellent question, and I've got two answers for that. So, what are the steps to investing, and where can they start investing? So, nobody would typically start driving without learning how to drive first. I want to believe that, right? Yeah. I hope so. So what is the point of that statement is that when you want to start investing, you actually need to get some knowledge or work with someone that is particularly knowledgeable about it. And why do I say this? I say this because some of us actually don't know it, but I always say that we have an MMM mentality. By MMM, I mean that MMM Ponzi scheme, because it's almost like I want to put my money here and I want like this. I want to put my money here and in 2 weeks, like that that kind of thinking towards money is part of how we get scammed. So what is the point here? You actually need to spend time in learning how to invest. You need to learn time learning how the money game works. Remember I talked about the MBQ, the different money profiles. The investor is the savvy investor because he knows how to play the money game. It's like playing Ludo. If you're a Ludo champion, I'm sure you know there's a strategy. Some people are just rolling that die, whatever is there, they go with the wind. But some of us have a strategy. When we're playing that game, we play to win. So when it comes to investing, do you know how to play to win? Or are you just looking for the next person to tell you this is where to invest, this is how to invest? I emphasize this because it's too common. WhatsApp group is crazy. You can be there sitting doing nothing and you just get, in quote, investment opportunities. And unfortunately, the bulk of it tends to be scams than real life. And that's because for me, we lack the requisites or the necessary investment knowledge to be able to identify what a real investment is, to be able to assess the risk and returns thereon, and therefore decide if that investment will even help us to achieve the strategy we want, to help us achieve the goal we want, basically. So that's very important for me, because if you're not learning how to invest, it's like saying you want to start driving a car and you don't know how to drive. We already know that it's to crash. We pray nobody gets hurt. Now, the second thing, in terms of steps to investing. So one of the things we first start with our clients is we have the steps to investing. And it's because there are baby steps to this. If you go to our website, WIMBIZ, I hope it's okay to share this, to our website, www.moneymap.africa, right? Moneymap.africa. You'll see there we have our starter investment plan. And what is that? It's basically taking you through two things. First, the budget parts, because you can't invest when you have no money. And I know it's difficult, but there's another strategy to that, because there's a way to play that game. And I know because I've been there, there's a way to play that game. The same way you have to pay NEPA bills, the same way you must pay school fees, there's a way you need to start seeing less of your money to be able to put something aside. It might not be enough to do everything you need it to do, but that's why we talked about the mindset. There's a mindset shift that needs to happen for you to start doing that. It's when you started doing that, then the next step becomes, now that you have this money, what do you now do with it? And I remember that book, it is The Richest Man in Babylon. I still remember the story where he said you must first be able to spend less, put something apart, then learn about investment, see someone who is doing something similar, and then join the person. So it's the same thing. So there are steps to investing that's in that guide there. But the first thing is budgeting first. Then second, knowledge. They work both in hand, actually, because if you don't know that, you're going to be seeing things that are designed as mutual funds and they are not, or things that are designed as real estate. I'm in the real estate business as well. And I always say some people are investing in real estate. Some are saying, I lost money. And some are saying, thank God. What's the difference? Knowledge. Working with experts, having the right knowledge, so that when you are in quote driving this car, you know that you are driving the car on the road, not in the middle of the lane, not likely to hit and burn. But unfortunately, for the bulk of us, we're in too much of a hurry. We don't want to learn, but it comes at a price. So I'm really hoping that you would actually take this learning. Like I've said, it's a skill. So you have to spend some energy on learning that skill so that you can make better investment decisions, okay? So I hope that has answered that question.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Tolu. I'm sure if we have the next, few minutes or hours, you will continue. Well, that's very spot on. Thank you so much. Back to Wura. Wura, I won't ask you this question because it's more of a behavioral stuff, and I know that you as a PhD holder in organizational behavior, I want you to link this to human beings. And the reason is that it's around women. Are they more risk averse than men? And if they are, how can you how can you help recondition them not to be that risk averse as a behavioral expert? Because I think it's more of a behavioral thing or a cultural thing. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent question, but let me take it a little bit differently and I'll come to the specifics. And give an example. Yesterday I was at a function and I was another big, wonderful WIMBIZ elder was there and said, "Oh, I hear you're going to be speaking at this function." And I said yes, and I told her the topic. She's like, "Oh, me and numbers, we don't agree." And I just smiled because this is a woman that if you see her, if you read her bio, you know she's highly accomplished. Done a lot in her life, contributed to society tremendously. But even she doesn't feel comfortable around numbers. And when they think of finance and investment, they only think of the numbers element, forgetting that that's just one tiny little aspect of it. And by the way, nobody's asking you to do maths. If there's an investment that requires more than a calculator, or if you are willing to excel, it is not for you to take that decision because you're not an expert. We have to know what we're supposed to be. If it is a complicated investment, you do not need to be doing it by yourself. You need to work with an advisor. That is the difference between the people that went on the stock market in the 90s and whenever that was, made a lot of money, and the ones that were left with their shares when everybody knew to come out and lost all their money. Your financial advisor, your stockbroker will have a stop order to say, when this share price goes below 20 Naira, I'm exiting, I'm keeping cash for my clients. You're not going to be sitting in front of the television watching what is happening, or you won't have Reuters and Bloomberg and all of that to be trying to, that's not for you. So we must all know education. The first one I said was know our own strengths, so we can know what we need to complement it, the tools that we need. I'm very lucky, I will tell you. I discovered Lotus 123 in 1986, quickly moved to Excel in 1990, and I've not looked back. Everything from my weekly grocery shopping to everything else is ruled by Excel. If somebody comes to me and says they bought Derica grams at this price, I'm like, wasn't I at the market just 3 weeks ago at another price? I love data, I'm comfortable with it. But if we're not, it's not that we can't invest, we just have to know how to supplement our weaknesses, because investment is a must for us. So it's the how. So this issue of women being risk averse, I don't like that term. I honestly don't, because I don't actually think it is true. If us women were really risk averse, we will not have babies now. Excuse me, we will say, look, let somebody else do that thing. No. Other people would not come home. No, so it's not true. We are risk aware. We are absolutely risk aware. We want to understand the risk. We want to know what to do to mitigate. And when we're comfortable that we balance that, we invest. But the truth is, because we don't generally have that education, that information, then our choices will skew perhaps the lower risk environment, which is why when Mrs. Debunking said, oh, when we're on boards, we do very well, because on the board, there are people that have other skill sets that we don't have. So our risk awareness is a positive, because we can then use the information that is available to help those committees and those boards take the right decisions. So our risk awareness is a positive, it's a good thing. It is now to complement it with advice and information and skills so we can take bigger bets is what I think is required.
Excellent, Wura. I think I have one more question before we go into the next stage, because I'm trying to keep to time. And that question, it's more of a follow-up question. And I think I probably would have covered it earlier one way or the other while discussing, but I still want to come back to it, which is around, in this part of the world, people don't want to, they don't really like to be real, and it's around long-term care. So the lifetime risk of needing long-term care often depends on life expectancy. And if you look at statistics, women's greater longevity also means they need to consider longer term care coverage as a surviving spouse most times. In fact, it's estimated that 3 in 4 women will likely need some level of longer term care in the years after age 65. It's a lot of stats on that. So nobody is praying that their spouse will die early or anything, but statistics are actually proven that after 65, a lot of women need longer term care. So that means they have to plan for their financial future. So let's close this first session by, what advice do you have for women whilst planning this financial future? Because the reality is that, don't let us bring spiritual stuff into this. The reality is that women need to plan for their financial future. And that's what statistics train us. What advice have you got to wrap up the session here?
Well, let me be very honest. I consider health insurance as part of financial investment. I am sorry to say it, it may not be popular, but for me, first top line, and I'm taking out my saving, I'm taking out insurance because I don't believe in paying for healthcare from pocket. Emergencies are what they are. You know why? You can't plan. You go to the hospital, you think you're going for one small thing, and it could be a big thing. How do you plan for that? So if you get yourself insurance, you plan that it's this amount of money every month. You know it covers 9 times out of 10 anything that you need. So I beg, anybody that works with me, works around me knows that I can't even think of you as that responsible woman if you tell me that you don't believe in health insurance. It's a necessity. It's a requirement. It's one of those things. So I beg everybody to take on this list, just list one additional item to your note. Research health insurance if you don't have it already. Find one that meets your needs, because start early. Your premium when you start early is low, and it doesn't grow that much every year. But if you go and get insurance like me at your 50s, they're going to just amount from day one is going to be very high because they know that all your comorbidities and everything are already going to start showing up. It's an actuarial mindset. So please, you're completely right. Health is wealth. Even if our husbands and everybody are around, it'll be great that we spend the money on holiday, on treating ourselves, not on buying, all of those things. So health insurance, honestly, a necessity.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Wura. Thanks, Tolu. We haven't finished. We still have a lot of questions from the participants. I can see the Q&A box. I think we have a couple of questions to respond to. So I will be leaning on you guys to respond to those questions. But before we move into that session, the Q&A session, I would like the WIMBIZ HQ to put up the sponsors video first, and subsequently to put up the second poll questions to allow our participants to actually respond to the poll. So the sponsors video, thank you. Can you put on the put up the second poll questions, please, WIMBIZ? Thank you. And there are two questions for the second poll for our participants to respond. If you can kindly do so, this should be showing up on your laptops or your desktops or your phone or your iPad. The first question is, have you ever thought of investment as strictly for men? Have you ever thought of investment as strictly for men? And the second question, what investment opportunity would you pursue after this roundtable? Shares, mutual funds, real estate, agriculture, or others? Please help us respond to those poll questions. Just got 30 seconds to respond, please. We need your responses here. Thank you. Okay, I think we will we'll now get to the Q&A session. I've got a lot of questions. We have the next 30 minutes to try and do justice to that. So I'll be leaning on Tolu and Wura, and I think looking at the chats, you guys are doing a great job, and so that's why the participants are actually bombarding the Q&A box with lots of questions. So we will start. There's an interesting question from one of our participants, and I'm going to be, Tolu, you'll be helping me to respond to this. Where can low-income earning women access loans for small-scale businesses? This person says, I work with women with disabilities who are willing to be productive but do not have the funds to start. Emphasis on grants and soft loans. So, over to you, if you can help do justice to that.
Okay, fantastic. So on grants, there are bodies that give grants specifically to women. I don't know any off the top of my head, but there are few people who do that in Nigeria. Please Google that or send me a message later. But in terms of loans, at least I'm very well aware that in Lagos State particularly, the LSETF is phenomenal at giving women small women loans, women and men. But like they said, they do have good feedback from women as well. So as low as I think 200 or thereabout, they're able to give upwards of 5 million and even more, depending on what it is that you're coming for. I think one of the things they also do, which is great, is they're also helping people to prepare for how to take a loan. I'm also aware that the government, I can't remember the name of what it's called, but I know there's a fund that they put out there that is available to youth. It's not focused on women, but available to youth. There's a training you have to go for. I think it's available in every state, if I remember correctly, because I attended one. It's available to youth, and you can apply for soft loans. But I know that particular loan, the one I'm talking about, is largely based for things like agriculture, manufacturing, and it's tied to the capex. So like you're actually applying to maybe buy like a machine that helps you to grind, or the machine that helps you to build up something that is your final product. Because what they actually focused on funding is that capital expenditure, that machinery or the like that, is more hefty in terms of cost, capital outlay. So there are a few of them out there. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of the second one, but LSETF, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, I think that's what it's called. LSETF it's a really good one that I know exists, and they're working well. I know people who are recipients and all that, not even personally, but I'm well aware that works. So I think that helps.
Okay, thanks, Tolu. Thanks for that, giving some insights. And if I can just add to that, I'm aware of LSETF. They do give grants to women, even when it comes to training in terms of relevant skills so that women can actually, so there are grants available. I happen to be on one of their boards of trustees for when it comes to helping women to access funds for, especially when it comes to technology training and upskilling themselves in the area of data sciences and all those things. So you're absolutely correct, and I'm sure people can reach out to you later on any specific details. Thanks, Solo, for that. Where there are a couple of questions for you, which is actually around health insurance. You mentioned things around health insurance. Someone says, I'm going to ask, I think there are two different people, so I will just ask these two questions together. How reliable is health insurance in Nigeria? Also, can you recommend some companies one can subscribe to? And the second person says, kindly advise on health insurance companies to have or something. It's a similar question,
Yes.
How reliable are they? Can you recommend which one that people can subscribe to? Thanks, Wura.
Let me just quickly add my own on the sources of funding. There is a network called AGS Tribes. AGS Tribes, if you Google that, they have a whole bunch of networks on women and finance and some upskilling processes as well. I was invited to one of their functions at one point, so I know they have funds and grants as well. I think they're grants, so that might also be helpful. Now with the insurance, again, I'm hoping I'm not being controversial. I want us to think about this in terms of maybe paying slightly more for peace of mind. So what do I mean? There are some big companies out there, Old Mutual, AXA, Mansa, Nova. These are the kinds of companies that I would go and look at the health insurance packages that they have. I know, I'm not trying to plug any of them, I'm not affiliated, but I know that my company, myself, and everybody I know went in one of those three. Now, I'm not saying we all have the same types of service levels. Some of us have, more premium service levels. Some of us have others that are not as expensive, but it's always, ourselves, spouse, and up to 4 dependents. So that just takes away, and some of them even cover, because one of my colleagues recently got his prescription glasses changed. Another one had a dental appointment because it was going to lose his tooth and everything, but it was done under insurance. And he came and was praying for me like as though I was the one that paid for it. And all I did was insist on a policy that we must have insurance. So another colleague of ours had his wife was having a complication with the birth. Luckily, they'd been on the insurance program for long enough, so even the childbirth was covered, and it happened to be requiring an operation. We didn't have to pay for it. So it's those kinds of things, which, like with investment, getting on insurance early is also good. It's not when you're ill, because most insurance will have like a few years or moratorium. If you've been on the insurance for 2 years or whatever, then most of everything there, you can actually have them pay for it. So that's really the advice I would give you. They've asked me for the address of AGS Tribes. I'll look for it and I will also send.
Yeah. Excellent. If you can just stay up for a minute, and there's another interesting question for you. And the question is, well, this is pretty, insightful. I think people are learning a lot from this session. And the question is, do you consider personal development a type of long-term investment? all the behavioral stuff, I'm pushing that to you.
Absolutely. So for me, and again, let's get personal a little bit. Even though the roads in Nigeria are horrible, my own idea is that there is no reason to change a car if you look after it earlier than on this 8th year. So every 8th year, there is a budget for a new car. But for me, every 3 years, I will finance a program for myself, a program that I want to go for every 3 years. And this, I think, is a bit of a nuance for me because my job requires that I'm constantly learning. I teach at Unilag, I'm a consultant, so I'm constantly learning. So it's always even challenging for me to find a topic that I think is worthy for me to take myself out of my environment to go and learn. And usually it's a topic that I'm not dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So it's really developmental. Because if it's a topic that has to do with the job that I'm doing right now or something I need for my lectures, I would have gone to learn it. So I go out of my way to find something that will expose my mind and move me differently forward. And I do that every 3 years. So I put the monies aside for that. Now, having said that, I didn't do it last year because of COVID. So the question then becomes, should I spend a little bit more on it if I've, floated it to this year, or just rebase from this year because it's just have to happen? So I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ura. I'll come back to you later. I've got a question for Tolu, and one of the participants says, can I take my pension and gratuity benefits as investments? And Tolu, if you can just even expand on that, if it's yes, and what sort of other investments can they look into? But the real question is that the pension and gratuity they've been put together aside, can it be considered as investment? Over to you, Tolu.
Okay, I think the question is more around, is it an investment?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, you could say yes, and I'll explain why. So pension is really more an investment with an end goal that when you retire, it will give you some income as, for your stipend or for your living expenses at the time. So in that sense, when we're putting money away, now towards our pension, the end goal of that investment, in quote, is that it will do this at the end of our working life. So in that sense, it is an investment. However, same as gratuity, which is the lump sum that your employer give you for X number of active years, etc., etc. However, the other thing we want to note, because I'm also working with some clients in similar situation, is that a lot of people, particularly women, tend to focus on the pension as just as they're focused on main area of retirement plan. Like, I think that's it really. So it's almost like when I retire, my pension plan. And I'm not saying that you will not get your pension. I'm just saying because of something called the time value of money and all of that, some other factors to be considered. I've seen people who have retired, earning a lump sum, and then their pension is like, they're like, this is credit money. What am I supposed to do with this? Now, the point that I'm trying to make right now is that the pension may not be adequate to meet all of your living expenses at that time. For example, it's part of why, like Mrs. Wurabiola said earlier, that your health insurance is a form of investment, because it means that in that time, you're not needing to, at least that's one deduction you don't need to make out of the money you receive as pension, in quotes, for your needs, because the older you get, chances are you need more healthcare services for yourself. Okay, so what the point here is that you do need to consider other investments so that you're not short of the funds you need to be able to live the lifestyle you want. All right. One of the ways my mentor always used to say it is that imagine sitting on a stool. So if it's got only one leg for the stool, that's your pension. Chances are you're not going to be very comfortable sitting here. You are barely balancing because it's just the one leg. If you've got 2-3 legs, you can still have a good balance. You've got 4 legs, and those 4 legs being, the different sources of income to fund your lifestyle, then chances are you'll be sitting pretty comfortably on that chair like you probably are now. So I think that kind of answers it. Yes, it's retirement, it's investment, but it may not be adequate to pay for the lifestyle at that time. Okay, so that's something you want to pay attention to.
Excellent. So if you can just stay on for a second, there's another question I want to pose to you. And it's the person says it's really been insightful thus far. Emphasis has been laid on saving, but for people like me who are residents in Nigeria, the rate of devaluation of the currency in Nigeria is really alarming. That saving up will mean eventually having less than you save. What's the best way to go about savings if you have to save at all?
Okay, anybody here?
So did you get
me?
So we can hear you.
Okay, I think I didn't hear you for a minute.
Okay, let me repeat my question. So can you hear me now?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So what the person is supposed to have been laid on saving for people like me who are residents in Nigeria. The rates of devaluation of the currency in this country is really alarming. That saving up will mean eventually having less than you save. What is the best way to go about savings if you have to save at all?
Yes, that's a very valid question in today's time. In fact, I almost think you should be answering that question. And I think you should do a follow-up when I'm done. So we have your expertise behind what I say. But on saving, yes. For me, saving is usually towards a very, very short-term goal, for lack of a better phrase. And what do I mean? I'm saying money that you need to have handy or accessible in the shortest possible time. That's how I view it, because otherwise I don't have money. I'm just saving and saving and doing nothing. I'm putting it into a tool. So in follow-up to the valuation and all that, there are two things I would consider. So the first thing is what you are saving or investing towards. So for example, if you're saving or investing towards your children's education abroad, what I tell my clients is then you should be investing in the end currency that you need the money for. So if you're trying to save for your child's education fund, I learned this from my dad. He started saving in FX, over years and all that, so that when the time came, the funds were in FX and he didn't have to start plowing all of his, Naira base to convert to another currency with different exchange rates. So what ended up happening there was something called like the dollar cost averaging. The point is cost averaging. And that is saying that if you had exchanged money at 100 Naira to the dollar, at 150 Naira to the dollar, at 250 to the dollar, at 390 to the dollar, at 480 to the dollar, the point is, as opposed to having to convert everything at the end point at 480, you would have been converting and making some benefits from converting some of them earlier than later, because the currency you needed in is different, okay? So what's the point of that? The end currency that you need the funds in, it's better to actually start, making changes in your current currency to that currency, so that way you can have that hedge over inflation. That's one thing. Two, so what happens as part of your investment knowledge or education? One of the things that happens generally across investment is when something appears to be, in quotes, unstable at a certain time, maybe for whatever reason, investors rather, move from that one to another, depending on certain other parameters. So what am I trying to say? As it's where now, I don't know about you, but nobody wants to invest in Venezuela or in Zimbabwe or in Iraq or Syria. And what's that? It's because the current economic situation in the current country is not stable. So there are risks to that currency. So as it's where now, unfortunately, we do appear to be having certain risk to our currency, to our economy. So as such, you want to consider alternative investments that could be giving you a hedge over that devaluation and some income in addition to that. So that's where you talk about dollar-denominated investments. And what do I mean by that? That is investments that are not in Naira, they're in other currencies whose currencies are more stable. Now, I would tell you off the bat, just go get a dollar-denominated mutual fund, etc., but it would be very unwise of me. And why is that? That's because there's still so many other dynamics to consider. You know, there's the returns of some of them, there's the risk on some of them. I see some of us are mentioning some high risk, you know, alternative platforms, and nothing is necessarily wrong with them. It's just that we need to understand what we're getting into. You need to understand who you're getting in bed with, so that if it goes this way, you're not going like, I'm shocked, why did you do that to me? You know, it's a relationship at the end of the day, like with the mindset. With money, it's a relationship. So with these investments, there are alternatives to what we need to be looking at. You do need to also get educated about it, so that if it goes the way you don't expect it to go, you know what you can do, what you should do, and make ultimately the best investment decision that works for your investment or financial goals. I think that helps.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. I think you responded to that, you know, excellently. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to Wura. Wura, this is an excellent question, and from experience as a very proven behavioral person, I'm going to push this to you, and I want to learn from this as well. How do women manage husbands that do not allow them in any way to have any investments? Those husbands see women investing as a bid for independence. How can you help our women to respond to this? We're over to
okay, so just, and this is not a dating game program, but I'm married. But but before I answer that question, which I will, through the experience of the ladies that I do coach, who are very much so, let me go back just to top up on Tolu's comments around the Naira and the loss of value through depreciation and inflation. There are two issues there. When I talked about having a strategy earlier, that's exactly where we are now, because we need to know what our portfolio strategy is. So how much money do we need to be near cash, which will save or put in some 3-month money market instruments? How much of our money or investment do we want in Naira versus dollars or some other kind of currency? These are all the questions that we're talking about, because one of the things that also would be a problem if you put your monies in a currency that you cannot now convert quickly to Naira when you need it, or break out of the instrument where it is invested when you need it, then you do have a problem. So you must know how much money you're investing, medium, long term, how much is available, either cash, in cash or near cash, that you can get your hands on. The other thing I want us to please be very careful about are the regulatory restrictions when we're crossing currencies, i.e. moving from Naira to dollar or whatever. The rules of engagement are very clear. If the person is not an authorized dealer or authorized buyer, they're not supposed to handle your FX. So that one is very, very important. If they don't have the approvals, then if you enter that instrument and the authorities then, come hard on them, as they have been doing from time to time, then your investment might be at risk. The other thing to say is that even the rate at which you exchange this is regulated. So be careful, really, women, let us be careful, let us be risk aware. Let's just not say because everybody does it. You must know what the rules are. So you're taking those risks with full knowledge when we talk about foreign currency denominated investments or savings. It's not only the destination of that savings that you must be careful about. It is your route from moving from your Naira to your dollar that you must make sure is legit, is kosher, because you work too hard for your money for somebody to now hold it up in long stories. That is why I just saw that Codrus has an FX, a foreign denominated investment instrument. Those are the kinds of things you should be looking at if you're just starting. Gradually get comfortable. Do a little bit of money, come in, come out. So know that you can go in, know that the investment matures, you can come out, you see your money, and then look more confident as you go forward. So I just wanted to say that. Now, on this issue of men being men, or some men being like that, I have seen it live. I've had colleagues, I've had ladies that I coached, I've had family members. And I think, honestly, for some of us, it is too late. What do I mean? When I coach the young ladies about relationships, I say, start the way you mean to continue. It's the same with running a business, it's the same with everything else. When you're dating and you ask a small question about money and they say, oh, it's not your business. Oh, you don't challenge that at that point. And then we're happily married for 10 years. Children are there. Everybody stayed in their ways. You now start saying, no. I heard Dr. Urabela say something on WIMBIZ, no, please. It doesn't work that way. So again, a lot of what we've been saying here is start early. Start early with investment. Start early with being curious about what happens to finances when you're a couple. Start early about suggesting and advising so that it becomes naturally how your family runs, like what Tony was saying about her relationship with her husband. So it is not something that is alien, Let's all pray that, the husband will have a hardship and then he would almost be compelled. Start early. Now, for those of us that didn't, I'm not saying it's too late, but I'm saying just like we've advised, when we start with investments, we start little by little, build confidence and everything. Let us also do that with this family orientation towards investment. And let us also be able to show that we are learning. So just because we've gone for 1 or 2 seminars, let's not say we know everything. So, and let us also show how we've used the monies that we have judiciously so that we can earn the trust and the respect to take up those bigger decisions. So I remember one of my cousins, her big thing was she saved every year, throughout the year, for 2 seasons, Salah and Christmas. So she was the go-to for her friends that were doing hampers. So she would invest a few millions in 2 women's hamper business with a guaranteed return. That was how she started. So she herself knew she didn't know the business of, that side hustle, but she saved the monies, and that was what she started to do to get her returns. So by the time she came to me to say, oh, the hamper business has grown, my savings is not good enough, we looked at what she had raised with the same people who had earned the credibility. So when I then lent her some, I know there was a risk, but it was a gain. I was aware of the risk. I took a calculated, intelligent decision based on what she was able to show me. And my money came back with the returns. So if we too have, for example, if our husbands are the ones that are doing all the heavy lifting in terms of finance, and we have a budget for the home, and we're homemakers, then if our budget is, I don't know, 100,000 naira a week or whatever it is, if we're able to save some of it and do something interesting with it, that in itself should give us the confidence to also go back and say, as we're talking about this, actually, I don't need 100. I only need 80K. See what I've done with the rest. Let's do some more. It's that kind of conversation.
Thank you so much, Amora. Thanks. I'm sure the participants are really well pleased with our response. Thanks, Tura. And I've got one more question because of time. I'm sure there's still a lot of questions in the box. And that question goes to Tolu. Tolu, it's a popular question. I've seen it in the chat. I've seen it in the Q&A box. It's actually people are asking for advice on cryptocurrency or Forex as a form of investment. Let's take that as the last question before we, and if we got more time, I would probably ask for Ura's perspective. But Tolu, if you can take that on, yeah. Thank you. You're muted, Tolu.
Yeah, sorry. I just got the notification. Sorry about that. Okay, great. Back again. Cryptocurrency specifically is definitely an interesting one. It has quite a lot of potential beyond the whole ecosystem itself is actually an interesting one I want to look out for and get educated about, because there are aspects of it that are definitely the future. The way the internet disrupted the world, the way social media has disrupted media as it were, it will definitely be making some disruptions in similar vein, especially because of the way it's going to be decentralizing finance. So definitely there is opportunity there, but like all things, there's some that are, risky as opposed to the other end, because I don't know if you're aware, even with the advent of the internet, there were .com companies, there were internet companies that also failed and some succeeded. So not to say that they were all bad, it's just that some were able to succeed their time and some were not. And we're likely to see a play out of that in this sector as well. So definitely it's an interesting one. Definitely we're into it, we're educated about it, we're aware, we know what we're doing. So this is something I would also encourage that we do get, educated about and informed about, because beyond the currency, there's what it could do as opposed to, from lending to real estate transactions, like all sorts of things. So it's actually beyond just the Bitcoin, as it were. So again, as women, I'm going to charge us to say we need to get interested in this beyond just I just want to put my money there, and when it hit 50,000, I sell off. Okay, that's a myopic, narrow way to look at it, because there's so much more we could be doing with that currency. So I'm not saying that is not one strategy, but there could be so much more opportunity for us there. So my take on that would be get educated about it. The more educated you are about it, the better you are likely to see the opportunities there and be able to ask good questions, because there will probably be version schemes around. Bring your crypto, we double it. Bring your FX, we double it, and all of that. Not saying that some of that cannot happen, but it doesn't happen more often than not. So be careful that your lack of education in this sector does not make you become the, in quote, loser at the end of the day. I think I'll end there.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Tolu. But before we almost get into the end, is there anything that you want to add to that, or you align with what Tolu said?
With this cryptocurrency thing, I'm one of those who has studied it quite a lot for my work, because it's part of what I do. And my big worry is for the Nigerian investor being able to invest in crypto as an asset class in a safe manner. So as everybody might know, there is one leg of crypto, which is the capital markets part, where the Securities and Exchange Commission is the one that will regulate it. And they have said, these are the ways you can invest in crypto. The challenging aspect of it is the movement of your cash into cryptocurrency, which has to do with the central bank. And the central bank is still formulating its own approach to allowing that seamless moving in and out. So if you're a long-term player, I think it's a great opportunity. By the time everybody in the regulatory space finds their levels, you'll be fine. But if you're trying to come in and out as quickly and all of that to play the market, it's a bit risky still today. So that's all I would just advise. And then what Tolu said was spot on. Please educate yourself, and you shouldn't go wrong.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we get into the end. I'm going to give each of you 1 minute each. And it's really been a wonderful session. 1 minute, just closing remarks. How do you summarize this whole thing from your perspective? So over to you, Wura. You can just stay on and just closing remarks here. 1 minute here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I was really excited to be here. I imagine that if it had been a physical session, the vibes in the room would have been excellent from all the notes I'm seeing in the chat group. And it's always great to be amongst women that are curious, inquisitive, and willing to think about doing things differently. I already prepared to leave you with a quote. And that quote is, the world is finally waking up to the fact that none of us can move forward when half of us are held back. The data is clear, empowered women transform societies. I got that from Melinda Gates' book, which she wrote in 2019. And I thought it was interesting. It's called The Moment of Lift, because just last week or thereabouts, they announced that Melinda Gates and her husband announced that they were getting divorced. So I went back to her book to see what she said about finance and being financially ready when I was asked to come and speak about this. And it's interesting. She'd already started to build her own capital and her own wealth, quite separately from the joint enterprise of her husband. And it reminded me of the way I was brought up. My grandmother, as we do in Abeokuta, had a little kiosk in her front of her home, and she sold Coca-Cola, and even though we're Muslims, she sold beer, she sold all sorts of things. In those days when you had those freezers that used to have ice block inside, because that was how you froze things. And when we would go on holiday, we would be the ones helping her sell, keeping her money for her. It wasn't necessarily, I don't believe that she needed that money to eat, but the idea of not having something that brought in extra income was just never possible for her. So that was what she did. My mom, from all I knew, she used to sell jewelry. She used to have a shop that sold clothes. She then had a shop that sold other things, and then she had a trawler. She was constantly in enterprise. Not because my father couldn't look after us, but that was what women did where she came from. And like I told you, from the age of 13, my obsession, my goal in life was to earn what I call annuity income. Everybody knows that about me. I.e., when I'm sleeping at night, something is making money for me. It then became almost a curse because my job as a consultant means that if I'm not working, typing, reading, producing documents, presenting, I am not making money. So that annuity income is that other thing, that other income that means that if I chose not to consult for a year and went back to school, I would still have something working for me, whether it's the properties where I have rent, people are only paying rent, whether it's equity in companies, whether it is monies in long-term bonds, they're working for me. And I have been careful to make sure that it is balanced for where I am in my life, what I need to assure that my goals are enabled with the required finances. And I'm looking forward to more women from this call, from this conversation, doing what it makes sense for them so that they can meet their life goals. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Wura, and I'm really glad that you're here and really enjoyed this session. So over to you, Tolu. Tolu, 1 minute. 1 minute.
I'm going to match.
Wura's taking some of your time, yeah. So 1 minute.
Match her timing. Okay, I won't do that, but I'll do my best. Okay. So this is how I want to end. As women, there's a phrase that I'm consistently rejecting now, and it's that, oh, women are small businesses. I would like to encourage us that it's okay to start small, but don't stay small. And being able to not stay small is, for me, precedent on the amount of information and expertise you have available to you. So remember, money is a skill. It's a game. You've got to learn to play the game to win it. And that comes with investing in knowledge and also your community. And what do I mean by community? I found it so very important. I've learned from it. I've learned from community of people who are better than me, and I learned from them, and having a community of people who are also trying to learn and reaching out. And because in that space, you're actually building on knowledge and getting better and making better decisions so that we can stop all this. We're small, we're doing small, all this mindset attacks of let's just do what we can in this corner here. We can actually begin to make better informed investment decisions. So it doesn't start in a day. So start small, just like when you learn to drive. You don't accelerate 100 kilometers per hour, but start where you are, but don't stay small. Play to win in that game by educating yourself and being around people who know better. Remember, he who walks with the wise grows wise, all right? So you need to find people who are trying to go in the direction or ahead of you here, so you can be better. And I believe with that at the back of your mind, the narrative for women and for yourself with investment will change. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. And thanks, first of all, keep it to time. And thank you so much for those insightful tips. We're going to wrap up shortly. Just a few things. Like I said, I took a lot of notes. So just to wrap up, I'm not going to repeat anything you've said, but a few things around conditioning. I think a lot of people should speak to that. Should learn a lot from conditioning themselves, investing in knowledge, having goals, life goals. You've got to, to invest, you've got to have goals, steps to take, the concepts of savings, learn about your character. You've got to have a strategy, know your risk profile, engage like-minded people, and a lot. And we can keep talking about this today. So thanks to you, the two wonderful ladies. I've learned so much, and I'm really glad that, I moderated this session. But a few things, let me just reveal two things. Because I always tell people, everyone has got a secret. People ask me, Femi, how do you get a lot to do? And this is being honest. There are two very important groups of people in my life, in my career so far. People say, where do you learn from? I've got three people. That's the first set of the first group, career-wise, outside work. I've got two coaches and one mentor outside work. The two coaches are actually women. One of the women is a senior leader in the US, running a firm of about 4,000 people, create about 5 states or 6 states in the East Coast combined together. And the second person who I still use and I pay so much to is based in the UK. My executive coach, if you go to my LinkedIn, you will find out who my executive coach is. So she's been actually helping me in my career in the last 10 years, right from the Vodafone days to PwC. And that's another woman. The only one out of the three is a man who is my mentor. But when it comes to coaching and career-wise, it's actually two women. The second group is actually my wife here. And when it comes to investment, I'm a consultant. I work, practically, I do services, either in the industry and I've done telecoms and consulting all my life. But the real investment in my family, when it comes to my wife can build a house, she can invest, she can rebuild her house and make more money. Even when the last time we sold a property, she auctioned and made additional, I won't tell you, but it's a lot of money that I would not have thought. So when it comes to in my family, the person that can really invest, I never have time, is my wife. And so credit to the women. So it's more like, I think it's more the engagement. So women that think that their husbands won't allow them to invest. Some husbands don't have time in terms of, so work together, engage them, try and create that financial future for the family. And the guy is not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying my wife shouldn't do it, but I don't have time even to discuss it. So my wife has taken it up to say, most of her investment, whether in properties, she can talk to any builder anyway. She knows what she wants to do. She knows, she will tell them and actually roll our sleeve to say, this is what we need to do. I will contribute financially in terms of it, but I cannot talk to a builder. I cannot talk to So kudos to the women, and this is just to encourage the women. And that's, some secrets I've just revealed about myself. I'm really surrounded by women at the top. And most of my direct reports where I work are actually women, directors and partners. Most of them, I think 70% of the people that work with me at very senior levels are women. So let's just go for it. And thanks. And I'm really glad. I'm honored to be part of the session. I'm going to hand over to Doyon just to do some announcements and overall closing remarks. Thank you so much. Thanks, Wura, thanks to Lu, and thanks to everyone that's actually been part of this. Over to you, Doyon.
Thank you so very much, Femi. Thanks, Wura and Tolu. From the level of engagement, I'm sure it's obvious that it's been an insightful session and an eye-opener for that matter. You can see the chat box, it's blazing, the questions and all of that. Thank you very much. Dear participants, please just give us a few more minutes before we go. We'll share an evaluation in the chat box, and we need you to please fill the form. WIMBIZ HQ. Okay, so we just have 3 minutes to do this quickly. Please fill the evaluation form. We have 2 more minutes to go. Please fill the form for us. We would like to hear from you about the May e-Roundtable session. Thank you for your time and thank you for your feedback. Thank you very much, dear participants, for filling the evaluation form. A follow-up link will be shared in your emails. Please do endeavor to fill that form too. We would love to hear from you on the e-Roundtable. Once again, we would like to thank our sponsors, Codros Limited, Greenwich Merchant Bank, and First Bank Nigeria for supporting this e-Roundtable, the May edition. Would kindly like to ask our participants who are not WIMBIZ associates to please join us today. And for the associates who have not renewed their membership, please do so. For more inquiries about that, please send an email to membership@wimbiz.org. There are also some upcoming WIMBIZ programs. The first is the UN Virtual Private Sector Training on Gender Tools, Gender Concepts, and Women's Empowerment Principles for CEOs and Heads of Human Resources. That is coming up on the 8th of May, 2021. And then the WIMBORD Institute Training. The topic is Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreements. It's coming up on Thursday, 20th of May, 2020 also. We do hope that you enjoyed the session. I enjoyed the session. It was quite insightful. It's women and money, right? So I'm sure everyone else enjoyed the session too. From the comments in the chat box, I know it's obvious that we all did. The engagement level was incredible. Thank you so much, our dear participants, for joining us for the e-Roundtable. We would like to hear from you, so please endeavor to fill the follow-up forms that will be sent to your emails so that we can improve on the roundtable. Once again, on behalf of WIMBIZ, I would like to say a very big thank you to our panelists, first Wura and Tolu, and then thank you so much, Femi, for moderating. It's been very, very insightful. We really do appreciate all of you. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.